Okay, so I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant here because as much as I like some things about Disventure Camp, it really just kind of infuriates me. Now, I really like the first season, and I also really like the beta of the first season, but unfortunately, I can't say the same for any other season of the show because I just have too many issues with the other seasons, although the season 2 remake is going pretty good so far. But, like, I just can't really seem to get attached to any of the characters the same way I did with Gen 1. The beta and the remake combined, I think, is what made me really like that generation. And, you know, the Season 2 beta was just awful. Definitely the worst season of the show. And also I kind of am just confused as to why they didn't remake that before they made All-Stars, because I genuinely think All-Stars would have been so much better had they remade Season 2 first. But you know what? That's honestly expecting too much out of this company. I don't think Odd Nation Cartoons knows what it's doing when it comes to writing. And it's such a shame because clearly they know how to write when they have their priorities straight, but the focus has definitely shifted away from storytelling in favor of fan service. And they basically blatantly advertise this on like their Twitter profiles. Like if you look at Jared or Rob's Twitters, they'll basically just admit. I might put up some examples of the tweets, but I'm sure if you're in the fandom, you know what I mean. They'll basically just say that they only want to bring back the marketable characters, which are the popular characters they've been bringing back season after season. I understand they want to make money, but they do realize that they have built up a massive fan base at this point. I guess I should talk about all of the season 1 characters, or at least the ones I kind of want to focus on here. So first, I guess I could talk about Jake. Jake was actually a character that I liked enough in the first season, but as the show progressed, he just got to be very insufferable and just very hard to watch because everything he did just kind of revolved around his conflicts with other characters, and it just got to a point. Him and Ashley's relationship really sucked. Ashley is such a confusingly written character, and it's kind of a shame because I think she could have been really cool. I just really kind of hate the way they wrote her, especially, you know, revolving so much around Jake. It's just weird. It really is just weird. Ashley's weird because she was the only pre-merger in Gen 1 to get this kind of special treatment. And does she really deserve it? I don't think so, especially if the writers are going to just end up butchering her character. Now, kind of branching off of talking about Ashley, there's Will. See, with Will and Ashley, Will doesn't really do anything, to be completely honest. And I feel like putting him in a relationship with Ashley is like the only thing that they gave him, if that makes sense. Because like he's Ashley's boyfriend. That's pretty much it. The other two people in that alliance are actually the only two characters to have been mergers in the beta, but then their merge status was revoked in the remake, and they were both pre-mergers and eliminated back-to-back, which really, really sucks. Anyways, I think Lil and Nick are really the show's biggest wasted potential. That is my personal opinion, and I'm a little bit biased. But I just felt like the remake was kind of trying to build something, especially with Nick, you know. It seemed like they were building some sort of development with him that they just kind of cut short. And it's kind of sad, and it's also really sad what they did to his character, because in the beta version of the show, he was like easily 10 times more likable than he is in the remake, and genuinely my favorite character in the entire series. If you haven't watched the beta version of the show and you don't like Nick, that will probably change your mind, at least somewhat. I just don't understand why he was the only character whose personality was genuinely completely rewritten, because I liked his old personality. They made him into so much more of an asshole, and I don't really understand why, because to begin with, he was not a mean person. Nick's intentions were never wrong. Obviously, the things he said were terrible. and the way he handled things afterwards, or I guess didn't handle things afterwards, really sucks. But see, there was a potential, you know, to kind of reconcile him with Lil and the rest of his alliance, and maybe do something with that. I'm not really sure. I'm still mad about the fact that they retconned their relationship between Lil and Nick, because I really liked it. It was my favorite relationship in the entire show, and I'm probably the only person, or one of the only people, who holds this opinion, but I don't really care, because I love both characters, and I think that they are genuinely perfect for each other. And Will and Ashley is Lil Nick's reheated nachos that should not have been reheated. That doesn't make any sense. No, I think that their nachos should have stayed hot, okay? We shouldn't have needed to reheat them, because they should have kept that romance plot. And, like, they didn't even have to get together. I just kind of missed the romantic aspect of their relationship, because I feel like Lil and Nick are both... Well, Lil, I think, is a better character in the remake, but Nick isn't. But I actually do find him and Lil's interactions more interesting in the remake than they were in the beta, but I don't think we got enough of them, and I think that some of that has to do with the fact that they were put into an alliance with Will and Ashley, I think. I know that alliance was designed to be a waste, but I think that we could have gotten a little bit more out of it, specifically with Lil and Ashley, since in the beta they weren't even in an alliance, but they still were able to kind of have a pretty sweet moment. And I hate how the remake took that away, and instead of, you know, showing us anything, they just told us, oh, Ashley and Lil are super close now, they're like sisters or whatever. But if I recall right, I don't think they had one conversation that didn't revolve around Fiore or Nick or the alliance or the game plan. I'm not really sure. I haven't actually rewatched season 1 in full at all. I didn't really buy their connection as much in the remake, which is kind of funny because they only had one conversation in the beta that most people probably forget about. But I think it's something that they definitely should have carried over to the remake. I do like Lil's personality better in the remake, but there was also a deeper aspect of her that was kind of taken away between the beta and the remake. And that's the fact that she kind of says that she's not used to, like, being around other adults. She's more used to interacting with kids. And that, in my opinion, makes the bond between her and Nick and her and Ashley, like, stronger, right? Because Ashley had a similar situation in the beta where she wasn't really used to anything outside of living on her farm, right? That's not really how Ashley is in the remake. Anyways, I think a motel episode really would have helped with, you know, the whole alliance situation. But I don't know, I just feel like people don't give them enough thought, especially people who haven't watched the beta. Ellie, I loved Ellie in the beta. I loved Gab Ellie in the beta. And I can't really say the same about the remake, but I do like her. I like her relationship with Gabby in season 1, not in All Stars. I like her dynamic with Alec, with Fiore, with really anybody. She's a very solid character in season 1, even if I have my issues with her. And I do feel like she was kind of inconsistently written, and that is my biggest issue with her. And, you know, feel free to disagree on that. I don't know. I personally just found her shift in personality to be a little bit jarring. But, you know, it's not too big of an issue for me. And then you have Alec. I have similar-ish issues with Alec as I do with Ellie. My issues with Alec are more that All Stars made him so boring. And, you know, he's kind of a detestable guy, but at the same time, he's also got some likability in him for sure. I really, really liked his dynamic with Ellie. I love the ship of him and Ellie, and I know that's probably not the most popular opinion, but I don't know. Anyways, what else do I have to say about Alec? I loved his dynamic with Fiore, even if it kind of rubs salt in the wound for his son, because, like, oh my god, Alec is such a bad dad. He's such a bad dad. But, like, that's not
bad from a character standpoint at all.
Oh yeah, Gabby. I really liked Gabby in the beta also. I know a lot of people have issues with her on how her mental illness is depicted, but the beta was so unserious about everything that it kind of was in a way handled better than it was in season 1, in my opinion. Things weren't as based in reality so much, especially when it came to the humor. Like everyone despising Fiore not caring when she got hit by a bus. Like, everyone's hatred for Fiore was definitely pretty funny in the beta. Not so much in the remake. Like Ashley hating Fiore with a passion. Why Ashley? Of all the characters in that alliance, Ashley was easily done the least dirty by Fiore. I don't understand why she hates both Nick and Fiore and then likes Jake. It's so confusing to me. Who else do I talk about from the... Oh yeah, Fiore. I love Fiore. She's the best character in the show. She's really the only thing that makes the show work, in my opinion, to be completely honest. I never would have been interested in it if it wasn't for her, I don't think. And I don't know, I think she was definitely, without a doubt, improved from the beta to the remake. She was more of a gag character in the beta. She was like a pain magnet character too, which is kind of funny because she's, you know, a tiny 6-year-old. Oh yeah, let me go back to Nick because I love Nick, okay? Let me just say this about him. The dynamics between him and the other characters were shafted so hard. His interactions with Fiore, Ellie, Jake, and Lil to an extent, although I do kind of think there's a little bit more depth to their relationship in the remake. The only Nick dynamic that I can say was undoubtedly better in the remake was Nick and Ashley, because Nick and Ashley's interactions in the beta were like non-existent. But then for him and Ellie and Jake, the relationship between him and them were basically non-existent. Gret was actually a really good character in the beta. She was hands down the best villain, or better villain, I should say. And I absolutely hate what they did to her in All Stars. Like, I really don't like it at all. And that's a controversial opinion, apparently. A lot of people were really big fans of her arc in that season. I personally did not like it. I think they could have definitely shown a more soft side of Gret without doing what they did, because in my opinion, they basically reduced her to nothing but a victim of misogyny for the entire season, basically. Well, I guess not the entire season, but a good portion of the season. You know, from what I remember, I really did not enjoy any part of Gret in that season. Besides her friendship with Gabby, I found that a little bit sweet, even though, I don't know, she was obviously pretty nasty to Gabby in season 1. But, you know, it's not like Gabby is an entirely helpless person. She obviously has some, like, violent tendencies herself, so... I also wanted to add that I really found myself missing Gret and Alex dynamic in All Stars, because I thought that their progression as, like, allies was going to lead to a friendship of some kind. At least that's what I hoped for, and that's kind of what it seemed like would happen, but not exactly. I wasn't really as big of a fan of Connor and Alex dynamic as I was Gret and Alec. Anyways, yeah, Gret was handled really well in the beta, I think. She was a really good villain there. She was a really good villain in season 1, and then she became just a character that exists that I don't want to think about because it makes me sad. Miriam was probably the single most improved character, writing-wise, from the beta to the remake, because she's genuinely just a really good character, and I enjoyed her winning. I think she was a good winner, and I think she was a really good character with a really good arc and some really good relationships. And I don't really have any notes aside from the fact they basically improved her in every way, and yeah, Miriam is good. I think that's where I'm going to end this rant, because I kind of wanted to leave things off on a good note. Obviously, as a Gen 1 fan, I have a lot of issues with the show, and obviously there were some characters that I didn't talk about, but that's mainly because I don't have nearly as much passion for them as I do for the other characters. Although I do love Dan, I just don't really have a lot to say about him. I guess that's it. Let me know what you thought of the video, and feel free to tell me your opinions in the comments. Bye.